You are now listening to Wave a Sound.
Welcome to Versus Mike History. I'm your host, Michael History. In episode 96, I sit down with Parisse and we discuss the community work in organizing a festival, how music influences creative strategy, and the multifaceted process of being a writer slash actress. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you choose to listen. Subscribe to our newsletter for updates and podcast recommendations, and join our members-only community on Patreon for access to exclusive content. For everything else, go to versusmikehistory.com. Welcome to Versus Mike History. I'm your host, Michael History, and we got Parisse in the building today. Parisse, welcome.
Yo, thank you for having me. I'm excited. I hear a lot about the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate the kind words. So I just got you on here today to talk about your festival, everything surrounding it, some music topics, and just life in general, and in a pretty condensed format. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited. A lot to chat about, but excited to hear like your personal background too.
Word. So I got started the last few episodes with this question, which is what are you listening to these days?
Ooh. I've been doing a lot of deep dives into like songs that are before my time. I've been going through like a lot of records. My mom and I can collect a lot of records from like thrift stores and stuff. So I recently picked up this new vinyl from a singer that I know, it's Jennifer Holiday. But I just never listened to like her full project before. So I'm just like trying to explore like some like oldie but goodies and things before my time, just so I can stay hip,
Sounds interesting. So just for the people who don't know, let's give a brief introduction into who Parisse is.
How can I do it simply? Been a music lover my whole life. I am a creative strategist by day and a creative by night. That's kind of how I like to describe it. I try to fill my days with, when I'm not working, with like just writing, just thinking of new projects to work on. That's how I like fell into this festival thing. And God, yeah, I do a lot of like either like with social media, like brand strategy, or if I'm doing like fun stuff on the side, I'm writing like scripts and acting because I think it's really cool and creative. But I think that's the best way to sum me up in like in terms of like recent stuff.
And how does, in terms of strategy, how does music influence how you make decisions, and how you enter I guess a negotiation phase with yourself?
So that's funny. I feel like music is like the backbone of all my decisions. That's a good question. Because I think in terms like even from like an early age, I was really intrigued by like songwriting. So that plays a part in like I have to write a lot of copy at work and like how that sounds, how it flows. Whenever I'm like looking for inspiration, it always starts with like a music video or like, oh yeah, I saw this reference in like a Kendrick Lamar video and I thought that was really cool. Um, or like just random things that I always have to pinpoint. It always goes back to like something I was watching recently. So a lot of my saves are like music videos, songs, lyrics, screenshots of lyrics, and like, I don't know, analyzing the breakdowns there. And I guess like how I go into negotiations with myself, um, I always make sure that anything I do, I never lose that identity, even like at work. Although, I mean, I'm working for like these large brands, which sounds sexy, but they're like really rigid in terms of like how you have to go about it. I always try to make sure to like push those boundaries and use music as an example with whatever. So if I'm not able to do that, then I know it's a good time for me to leave and find another place to work.
Word, that's dope. Um, and in terms of when we talk about music, what are some genres that influence you the most?
I'm really big on, gosh, I'm really big on like 80s, that like soul R&B era, when it just started emerging. I think if I ever am like just trying to put people on quote unquote to like songs they've never heard before, I always start with like Switch and the barges, because I just
Mm,
like that's like a really interesting reference in terms of like how many people have sampled their music
that's a
and
good
like is
era.
popular now. And I think that's what makes me really excited, like seeing their faces spark up when they hear like a sample from like, oh, they're like, oh, that's from Biggie's song. I'm like, yeah, it all started with this tune right here. So that's what always makes me happy. I always get there.
You spoke about samples. Do you think that like people try to carry that sound into the people have tried to carry that sound into like modern times, or do you think that it's been lost?
Uh, I'm always like I have this conversation a lot, mainly because I feel like the way that people are doing it now is a little lazy. It doesn't feel like authentic to the era that we're in. Like if you go back to like samples, like I think it's like 2000 when you have like that chipmunk sample era. Like it just feels really unique to that time when you're like listening to it and you're like, oh yeah, like that reminds me of 2004 when I was here, da 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 da. But like now I feel like we're getting like not even just samples, or just like still flipping the same exact songs that we know and turning it on its head. I have so many examples that I saw recently. I'm like, yo, this is not that good. And I don't know. I guess we got to like start dancing around who did it. But his name rhymes with Liddy, and his son. That he decided to have that song with samples his own production, and I was like, I don't really think your son can do something different where it doesn't have to like sample stuff that you've done in the past. But I guess that's what works. That's what gets the TikTok hit. So I kind of just
Yeah,
kind of ignore
yeah, those damn algorithms.
it. Right. Can't be mad.
So I want to kind of pivot into the skits that you do on Instagram because
Mhm.
those kind of just popped up. I don't want to say they came out of nowhere, but like I feel like I saw them one day and I was like, oh, I didn't know she was, on the
Yeah.
a theater kid, So let's talk about like how that came to be.
That's funny. I'm definitely a theater kid at heart. I did a lot of musicals and like acting when I was younger. And it kind of died out once I went to college. So I think post college, I was always looking for like more ways to like get back into it. Whether I was like, it started a lot. I was doing a lot of like music video pop ups with like my friends and stuff. And they're like, "Oh, you're really good at this." I was like, "I don't think it was that hard." And then I have good friends, not in like a narcissistic way. Obviously, I was just like, "Oh yeah," like I thought like there's more challenging stuff to do in terms of like appearing in videos and stuff.
Mhm.
And then I've always loved. I'm like really big like on movies, and just like how people like write in movies as well. So good friend of mine from high school, Julian Jones, shouts to Julian. He's really into film. He does videography as well. And then my friend Rob, they started Play Factory a while back, but it originally was just uh, kind of just like them showing off their photography and videography skills. And last year they wanted to evolve it. Early last year, 2021, they wanted to evolve it, and they asked like if anybody would be down and like into writing
Mhm.
and film and acting. So I was like, yeah, I'm down. So then it just five of us now we're like every week we have meetings, we're just writing skits, writing sketches, filming. Like it really sparks stuff that like I was excited about when I was younger. So I like being able to tap into that because at least I can explore like excite younger me.
Yeah. And are there any projects that are currently on air that inspire you or any past projects?
Ooh, great question. I'm all for Black women in writing. So I think I always say like my three favorite producers, writers, etc. Obviously the trifecta, Issa, Quinta, and not as well known, but Michaela Cole.
Hmm.
She like inspired me first up before Issa came out. Michaela had this show on HBO called Chewing Gum. It was originally in the UK, but they brought it over to like Netflix, HBO, and I thought that the comedy, the timing there was just like insane. Like I'd never seen anything like it. So I think, and it's such a short series, like it's probably like 6 episodes in like each season. And but I thought it was hilarious. So from then I was like, I kind of want to do something like this. I don't know how. And this is back in college. And then Issa came on the scene, had her show obviously blew up, inspired a lot of people. And I think that's when I started seeing a lot of like mirror and reflections of like what she was doing on the show versus like what I was doing in real life. And then I would hear like people saying, "Oh, that's what Issa did." I was like, "Damn, nah, I thought about it first." But I think those three people, I think seeing them like evolve has made me really more ambitious in terms of like what I want to do in life.
That's a really nice segue into Heart of the City.
It's like you planning yourself. Look at this man.
um, yeah, so let's talk about the inception of that and like, the moving parts of putting together a festival because man, it seems like a lot. And I know you have a lot on your shoulders, but you also have dedicated people behind you. And let's talk about how all that comes together.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting here has been like probably like 5 years running. When I was in college, I started the Talent Project, which I was interviewing like local artists around me. I met so many people through that too. Like I think that's kind of how I gained like all like the music community around me because I just was like going to open mics like every single week, trying to scout talent. Like I felt like a local local A&R. Like I was just like, hey, like
Or,
you got it, like come here.
I mean,
So
that's what
I
you
would
were.
like and I would just like I would just introduce myself and like interview them and just post it on the website I had. That evolved into me. I did the galas, a talent gala where I would feature the people I would host. I would interview and have them like everybody dress up, everybody sat down for dinner and I have to watch them like, perform in front of them and make it like a big deal kind of thing. So I did that for 2 years and a lot of growing pains there too. But I think once COVID hit and there was a lot of like shifts in what people's mindsets were, everybody was doing a lot of self reflection. There
Mhm.
was a lot of injustice around us after we saw like George Floyd's death, murder, sorry, correction. But once I saw that, I noticed there was like a need for more of it and like more inclusion in my community. So I thought of this concept. It was like I didn't know how I was going to do it. So a lot of knowing people and talking to people in my hometown, like you used to work for the Raleigh Rec Center, right? Like who do you know that does this? And I was asking around all last year.
The
Eventually
real,
got
the real work.
right. The real work is the networking part, right?
Mhm.
So I had to like it was a lot of that. So eventually I got in touch with the right people by God's grace because it was a lot of like trying to figure out who's who. Um, Last year was a smaller venue and they asked me to be part of like a Broadway event that was already solidified. So I was like, yeah, I'll be a small part of that. Da, 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 da. What what I didn't realize is how much it would evolve this year. They eventually asked me to have my own event and how I was going to go about it. Working with local government is a challenge in itself, right? So I was like, I wasn't really sure how I was going to go about it, but I knew like from my past events, I wanted to get help. Like I just knew I couldn't do it by myself. A lot of it was just a lot of moving parts, a lot of like people to ask, a lot of people to talk to. So I had a genuine ask early this year, probably in January, about anybody who just wants to volunteer like on an event. And there was just like a big outpouring of people who were really interested. They like continuously hit me up. They're like, I'm down. Like, just tell me when, blah, blah, blah. So I got those people together. We had an official kickoff meeting and we got to business. Like it just felt like it felt like the moving parts were moving, but thankfully I was prepared for like everything that brought me to that point was just through life in general and jobs and stuff like that. So hopefully that's like the quick synopsis. I don't know if like I should elaborate on anything else.
Well, no, that was a very thorough description. It just leads me to um pry further and talk about, how did the first year go? Talk about that first year and that initial that
Yeah.
official how yeah, how did the first year go?
That was cool. I was really proud of what we were able to accomplish last year too. Um, I just knew, and I was working with someone named Michael Elliott at that time. He's a fashion designer, so we both had like similar ideas of like what we want to accomplish and how we wanted to do it. So we kind of just went like head to head, and we're like, all right, listen, like you tackle this, I'll tackle the musicians, da 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 da. And a lot of like new things I had to learn about like what government could provide for me. Like last year we asked for money and they're like, oh, absolutely not, you got to provide everything yourself. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know how to do that. A lot of asking around, a lot of trying to figure out like who can do that, who knows better than me. And I think I forgot where I got this quote from, so I'm definitely going to misquote it, but it was just saying like if you're not like always looking, if you're not the like the not the if there aren't people in the room who are smarter than you, then you're not doing something right. So
Mhm.
I think for me that was part of the challenge, because like my entire life has been like, all right, I need to figure this out, but I know for a fact now that like some things are just aren't my wheelhouse, right? So that was definitely a learning curve for me last year, and I took that with me this year in terms of like how I delegated certain tasks, making sure if I had an expertise and I know how I can pass that off, um, I can do that. Because last year I learned that we're definitely going to need more space. We're definitely going to need better sound. I had to learn more about music equipment and um, just like what people enjoy when they come to like outdoor activities, like how they interact. It was a lot of like observation, and there was a lot of that this year too. But I tried to weave that into the festival this year, knowing that how people interact with them, like each other, with the musicians, etc. So yeah.
That is very cool. Very cool. Um, do you document the process of putting these festivals together, or like would that be something that you would be interested in the future?
You mean like in like a Cootie like Kanye type of way, or
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
that's definitely something I've been thinking about. The videographer I worked with this year, Marcel, he was really interested in like documenting the process in itself, um, which is interesting to me because I never thought anybody would want to like sit around while I'm like sending emails all day. But he is like really interested in like, especially like how we all work together, like especially when we had that kickoff meeting a few months back with all the volunteers, um, interests like that. But other than that, I have no like video documentation besides just stuff that I write in my notebook, stuff that I've compiled on my computer, and just like the simple origins of like how my thoughts come together, like just me writing down like, hey, here's a name idea, and it evolves from there.
So, is this all practice for a larger stage, or are you dedicated to kind of growing this where it is currently?
Um, definitely, I definitely have hopes of it being on a larger stage. I wanted this event to eventually and gradually take over downtown, where people can like walk around. There's this event in Rahway called Hot Rods and Harleys, right? But it's a
Mhm.
bunch of like older white people who kind of racist, not gonna lie. They they walk around like driving their Harleys and cars and stuff, and they encompass all like I think maybe half a mile of downtown where they're just walking around.
Mm.
And I'm saying like if we can do that for this, like we need something that incorporates like culture and like people who actually grew up here, people who are still here, younger generations who still want to go out and have fun. Um, So I definitely see on a bigger scale with like two stages, and the big stages too, like where the budget is like 10, like up there. Um, but that's like the smaller pipeline. I don't even know what could happen in like the next 10 years, but I know that's just like my short term goal for this.
Well, we all gotta have goals.
Absolutely.
So we're just coming off of the second heart of the city. Um, how soon does the planning process begin after the last one ends?
Great question. I think it's for me, it normally starts around December once I start seeing things. Like I a lot of my inspiration will just start from like if I have a dream. I'm very Caribbean for this, by the way. And just things just come in my dream and I'm like, oh wow, I need to write that down. And then it kind of just blows up from there. So um I always start doing like the general, like, all right, what are my learnings from the last event? um, Probably like end of September, October, sit with that for a little bit, and then figure out how to move from there.
Okay. And outside of the festival scene, what are some other projects that you think that you be looking into in the near future?
Hmm. I definitely like, I mean, it's still technically a festival, but like I love obviously film. I
Hmm.
love people being able to just like sit around, watch something together and take that in. Um, I I like museum aspects where people are looking at each other's arts. Kind of, I like when people are just together, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Just different forms of that and how you can explore like a space. Um, and essentially just how people, one, how people interact with each other, and like two, how they interact within the space. um it feels like such a weird like psychology project, but I don't know, I just, it's really interesting to me. I like seeing people smile, and I like when other people can see like their art on display, and be able to network and move that way. So I think that's kind of next on my list, but I'm not sure. I guess that'll come to me when I wake up from a dream one day.
So, um, I know that like it takes a lot of people to put the festival together, but in
Mhm.
terms of like creative collaboration, um, would you say that you are open to collaboration? Or are you sort of a solo flyer?
Um, I am open to it. I like when ideas align. Like when Michael Elliott and I collaborated, that timing of it was just, I don't know, it was kind of perfect, to the perfect balance of like, all right, he likes to push, and I'm more of like with a reserved. So like that that tug was really helpful because it kind of got me out of like, all right, well, we can't do that because they're not going to approve of it. And he's like, oh yeah, no, we can do that because let's believe in ourselves. Like it was just like, that balance. So I thought that was really cool. Sometimes, people come up and they're like, hey, let's link and build, let's do that. Da, 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 da. And I gotta sit with it too, of like making sure the people I'm with or work with are genuine, nice people. I like background checks, like not in like a really formal way, but I gotta know like who you hang out with, like who are your people, what do you do outside of this, outside of wanting to work with me. I gotta like, it's one of those things, I gotta sit with you for a little bit for me to understand what your visions are. So if we were to collaborate on a creative idea, that it makes sense. Like I want to be able to hang out with you outside of this too.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely gotta normalize vetting collaborators because
Right.
we're living in a crazy time.
Right. People are insane. I was just talking about that to my friend earlier today, that people move funny, so I gotta make sure I'm not part of it.
Right, right. And hmm, I guess we're coming to a close. But it has been great speaking to you, Parisse. I guess I kind of want to leave off on some more music topics and just
Yeah.
talk about like what you really have in rotation right now. You know, like what are some who are some artists that kind of get you through your day to day strategy meetings and um play factory meetings and you know heart of the city planning sessions.
Wow, I've been on a lot of Afro beats recently, and I think mainly because obviously Burna Boy's been like blowing up this whole summer. I'm super happy for him too. Like I think the recognition that he's getting is well deserved. So um Afro beats for sure, like discovering new sounds, making sure like I'm in happy spirits when like things are going wrong. Cause I feel like whenever I do listen to Afro beats, even if they're singing about, you know, their heart being broken, they're still jamming throughout the tune. So like, yeah, I think that's been on my radar. What else? Obviously Beyonce, like how could I leave that out? But everybody else is listening to her. So I didn't want to throw her out there like that. Um, what else? For the most part, that's it. I would just keep my phone on shuffle and I just hope for the best, whatever my phone decides to play that day.
Mm. Do you think that there's such a thing as too many festivals?
Mm. Yeah, I think the intention behind it has lost for sure. I think a lot of the festivals has just been like, all right, like, hey, we have this high act and we have this big act, like come to this one, come to this one. But I don't know, they don't do anything to make the experience better. Like I think that's what people, at least I would want people to focus more on when we're doing these like large festivals, and how can we one keep everybody safe, keep everybody hydrated. Like I used to go to so many when I was in like college, high school, and they haven't changed much since then. Like I went to one recently, I was like, this feels like exactly the same, but I'm just older. So I think that's why it feels like super saturated, and maybe it's something for me to think about in terms of like what how to differentiate what I'm doing from all that.
Right. Because one of the things that I was thinking about was that like are we creating opportunities for artists or for artist exposure, or are we creating reasons to you know market more mediocre artists, you know?
Mm, yeah,
And sometimes I don't know with these
right.
lineups because it's like, all right, well, good, he's making a living, but I mean, am I ever gonna listen to this artist? Like, am
Right.
I ever gonna hear them anywhere? Like,
Yeah, besides here, that's a good question. I feel like they've definitely gotten super crowded. Um, I don't know if like it's one of those like intentional things. Like, what are we actually doing? Like, are we here to make money, or are we here to like, I don't know, just actually support? Like, I don't want to call out any festivals because that's I don't know, but the one I have in mind just makes you feel like there could have been a little bit more intention behind it. Again, like what are you doing for your small artists in terms of like marketing and advertising on your channel, and not just like the big ones that we always see every day.
hmm. It's good to hear that somebody has that in mind who's organizing festivals.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt in the last like few years. So I was like, you know what, if I'm gonna do anything, it's gonna be that. It's gonna be
Right.
that.
Well, like I said, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I appreciate what you're doing for your community because you're bringing people together, you're incorporating music, and it's all for a positive cause. And that's all we can ask for in the society. And I'm just here to give you a platform to promote that and you know show the people what's on your mind for a bit.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I really like appreciate your podcast as well. Like the artists and the creatives that you big up on here are really on the lane of their own. So I'm happy and honored to be a part of that lineup.
Word, word. And I appreciate the kind words again. So let the people know where they can find you on Big Bad Web.
Socials, my personal is always the same. It's Welcome to Parisse, WLCMTOPARISSE. That's normally easy to find, but if y'all have any trouble, let Mike know, he got you. And I post everything Heart of the City related on the Talent Project, easy to remember. That's on Instagram, but we're expanding. We're going other places.
Wonderful to hear.
Mhm.
And as always, you can find us on at versusmikehistory.com and VS Mike History on Twitter, versus Mike History on Instagram, all that good stuff. Subscribe to the newsletter because that's fire. Yeah. No, I'll see you beautiful black people later. Peace.
Yes.